Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Martin. It's Books at Lunchtime, and I don't have my colleague Em with me today, but we've got something really exciting. We're talking to Martin Ellis, and I have sold boxfuls of your book. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I went for a whole year where my daughter was very little, and every time somebody had a birthday, there was one gift she wanted to give to her friends for birthday parties, and it was your book.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
And it's unassuming. It's got nice big font on it, and it's not too many pages. It's just the right size to hold in a hand, isn't it? So why are we talking about your book today?
We're talking about it because it's the run up to Christmas, and what happens in the run up to Christmas is thousands of mums and dads buy this little book to go into Christmas stockings, and then they get woken up on Christmas Day at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, and children tell them jokes, and they're all very excited. I've spoken to a number of mums in bookshops who've told me that it's exciting for them to see the children wake up and find what's in the stocking, and then read them jokes. I've been told by many bookshops up and down the land that it's their best-selling book, or their best-selling children's book over the year or in the run up to Christmas. It really has been a phenomenal success. I published it on a whim. I'm a publisher, not an author. I don't self-identify as a writer, and although I sort of do a little bit now, because during the lockdown I've started writing regularly for a magazine, and I get paid for that, and there's other things that I'm doing with writing. So, but I've always self-identified as a publisher. I run my own little publishing company for over 20 years now, and I worked for another publisher before then. And the book came about because I observed children, when they're talking to adults, often tell jokes. That's their interaction with adults. And I wasn't thinking of Christmas stockings, which is the biggest driver of sales in the year. I was thinking of birthday cards, because I thought there's lots of aunts, uncles, grandparents who know children who are constantly telling them jokes that we probably remember from when we were children. And I just thought there must be loads of people who would like to send, that they live a distance away from the children they want, so they send in a birthday card. Why not have something that fits in? I also thought children like something little, and I was advised not to publish it because I was told it wouldn't work, and nobody does that. All children's joke books are the Mammoth or the Big Bumper Book of Jokes, or so on and so forth. And I just said, yes, I know, but I want to do a little book. And it's based on observing children, basically. It's reader-centered. Yeah. It's designed so that children can read it easily. They may need help with some of the pages, that's fine. And it's designed so children can pick it up, open a page, read a joke, then flip to another page and read a joke. And what the feedback that I've got is children absolutely love it. Yeah. And I've been told by a number of people that children who have not just been reluctant readers, but have been anti-book, don't want books, keep saying, I don't want to have a book, books are boring, I like my computer games or whatever they like, I don't know, really take to this book because they laugh. It makes them laugh. It makes them, they're the centre of attention when they're reading the jokes out. And because of its size, a lot of children carry it about with them. They have little bags, so it fits in their pocket. Or if they're on a journey, they take it with them. And the portability and the way that it fits in their hands, and the way that everything's written on the level, left to right, top of the page to the bottom of the page. And I haven't used, I decided not to use an educational typeface, because it would look too much like school. So it is a typeface which is easier for children to read, because if you remember at school, I barely remember because it's a long time ago, when you're being taught how to write, you often are taught on different lines. So there's the stem of the P goes below the line, and there's a main bit, and then if it's a D, the ascender of the D, the top bit that goes up. So they all they fit into three pieces. There's a middle, the ascender and the descender, if you follow me. And children find typefaces which follow that traditional format much easier to read, and that was deliberate. And I didn't want it to look like something they might be given at school, because they'd be reticent to that.
I think it's spot on in terms of being really aware of your reader. And I can see what you're talking about with the font. What I hadn't spotted listening to you talk, and I don't want to make it too academic or whatever, but the reason children like computer games, I've heard, is because they're responsive. If you press a button, you get a response. And with the jokes, they get a response, don't they? You tell a joke.
Yes.
And what do you call a polar bear in the desert? Lost. Now, people.
I was trying to remember because it's a long time since I compiled the book.
And people respond, and I don't know. Maybe people don't want to read because it's too solitary, and the internet is changing that, so that reading is more of a community experience. But for children in school, it often is very much transactional. Teacher says read, I read, therefore I am moved up to the next level. If it was more participative, if children were given joke books in school, maybe they would fall in love with reading sooner.
But I think so. I mean, I used to love reading comics when I was a child, and I used to get The Wizard for a number of different reasons, and I didn't get the Beano or the Dandy because they were brought into school by other kids, and I read them at school. So I didn't want to. I wanted to get something so I could read them all, and I got to admit, I used to love Enid Blyton, but I looked at an Enid Blyton book a few years ago. I couldn't even read one page. I thought it was so awful, and I don't know how, when I was 9 or 10, I just read them from cover to cover very quickly, and I love them. I don't think reading should be a challenge. I think reading should be a pleasure, and
it's very much about getting the right book in the right hands, isn't it? And you're right, some children will say, I am anti-book, I will not turn up for Christmas if there's a book under the tree. Don't even try. But then you give them the right book, and they run off with it, clutching it in both arms, because they've got the book that was written for them, that gets them. You rang us, I don't remember what year this was published, and you said that you had written this book, and you talked me through it. And my instinct is to say, probably not to most people who ring, but you talked me round, and like I say, we've sold boxfuls of this, but it also really opened my mind to jokes. And sometimes I say to parents, I'm going to give you a book bigger than this for older children, say a 300-page book, and this little boy is going to read the whole book cover to cover, and they're going to read it to you, and the parent says, no way, no, not going to happen. And then when they see what book I'm giving them, they realize, actually, this is what is going to open that door for them. And this opened that door for me. So this is brilliant. And I really thank you for this. We are talking about it now because we're also participating with this conversation in something called the 12 Stories of Christmas, which is an Instagram campaign organized by another bookseller in Weston. And he spotted that the Booksellers Association catalogue has a lot of Christmas books in it, and so we're helping to focus on a Christmas book every day for the 12 Stories of Christmas. And your book is in here, but you've got another one in here, haven't you? Do you want to tell us about that book?
Yeah, this is, I actually have 3 selected, but I had to, limited marketing budget. What happens is you submit your titles, they get ranked and scored, by bookshops up and down the land. And if you get selected, you can go into the catalogue, but you have to pay to go in. And it's not been an easy year, as we know. So I decided I'd put this book in, which is a more recent book. This book came about because actually I've got a book called The Little Book of Red Hair. A few years ago, I was at an event for Red Hair Day, and there were a number of different people presenting, giving talks, and there was a woman from the society that saves orangutans, and she didn't have a flash, whatever, presentation background to her. She just got onto the stage and she said, "Who knows the difference between an ape and a monkey?" And by asking the question, who knows the difference between an ape and a monkey, her approach grabbed everybody's attention far more than the flash, snazzy presentations that preceded it and went after it. She then answered the question and then went on to give a lot more detail into what her organisation was about. And that was very interesting. And I just thought, that's great. Have a question that rouses interest and then give the answer. Very traditional sort of format. And what I mean, it's got all sorts of things in it. A lot of it's animal based, but not entirely. And what I'd also hope is that children or families get together and think of their own questions that aren't in the book. What's the difference between, and they see if they can come up, and, just to get people thinking and talking and so on and so forth. But I just loved that. Grab the attention with a question, give an answer. People go, I never thought about that. I didn't know that. That's interesting. And it's for slightly older children than the Little Book of Jokes. It follows, if I hadn't have had the joke book, the front cover would look very different. But because I want to trade off the success of the Little Book of Jokes, because I've sold Knocking On for 100,000 of it. Now I want to, and I was advised not to publish the joke book, as I've said. So I'd hope that, and it doesn't sell as well as the joke book, but it does sell, and it's been in the Booksellers Association Christmas catalogue previously, and it's been reselected. Another book which I published, which this came out before the Little Book of What's the Difference, and this the Little Book of Amazing Facts for Kids of All Ages, obviously it's following the same design, so people will associate it with the book that they've enjoyed and so on and so forth, isn't really a book of facts. I just thought facts entice kids. It's actually a book of explanations. And I thought, if the Little Book of Explanations for Kids of All Ages, it sounds a bit like something you might get at school. And children in the playground or wherever, they like the idea of being clever, I think. But really, what drives it, I often say, it's got the, why is the sky blue? And it explains why sky is blue. But more importantly, for most children, it's got a fair bit about bodily function. So it's got, why is poo brown? And children are fascinated. Well, when I was a child, children were fascinated by bodily functions. Children ever since have been fascinated by bodily functions. Children currently are so fascinated by bodily functions. I think they still are and will be in the future. And I actually asked a friend of mine who's a retired GP for an explanation of why is poo brown, and he said, I used to explain that to my little girls when they were little, and he gave me an explanation which was far too complicated, far too complex. And so I broke it down to what I thought an 8-9-year-old would understand, and that's that book really. It's full of sort of explanations, and they're just £3.99, and then they go into stockings as well, and they're simple, they're straightforward, they're not full of colour pictures or anything like that. I've always taken the attitude that children love humour and fun, obviously, with the joke book, but children can also be very serious and earnest. I remember, I'm sure we all do, sitting down and watching children's television Blue Peter in particular, and they'd have a serious whatever. In my day, it was Valerie Singleton and Peter Purvis and John Noakes. They'd be clowning. Well, John Noakes would be clowning around 1 minute, and next minute he'd be learning how to do something, and it'd all be very serious. When he went up Nelson's column, it was all very serious. There's umpteen, and when he went skydiving, it was all very serious, how you learned to do it. And children can be earnest and serious. They don't be earnest and serious all of the time. And you know, they need a mix, or like a mix. They want a mix. Getting back to the joke book, one of the things I've heard from a bookshop is that he regularly hears children see My Little Book of Jokes, and they're mimicking the parents' behaviour, and they take it off the shelf or whatever it is, and they say in a very earnest manner, "I need that," which which sounds, as if they've heard their mums when she sees or dad sees a book which is going to be helpful.
But they're probably right. They probably do need that. They need that light relief. They need it to be straightforward. They need to, I think, just not having the big color flash illustrations just for a little bit of settling down and thinking about the content is really healthy. So I'm full of admiration. I'm going to ask you another. What do you call a scared dinosaur?
I can't remember.
A nervous Rex.
Of course.
Oh yes. So I'm really grateful for you taking some time to talk to us today.
Thanks for asking me.
No, it's really good having a chat. And I think 300,000, no, did you say 300,000 copies? 100,000 copies?
100,000.
Amazing.
Coming up to.
Yeah, really well done. Well done not listening to the critics and the naysayers. And I will continue to buy them by the box full and put them in children's hands. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
And happy Christmas to everybody.